Hey everybody, welcome to the shelter hole. We're coming to you from big Danville, West Virginia, and today we've got on my guest on my podcast is the one and only from the Chad Garrett Show, Forerunner Productions, Chad Garrett. With heavy hearts, we come to you from West Virginia. We lost my wife's Uncle Rick Smith this week. Many different complications. Part of it, I guess, had to do with the COVID, but we're not real sure. But anyway, he is now forever present with the Lord. And so the title of this podcast, really, we're just going to do a quick 30 minutes today, and we're kind of doing a test run on some of our equipment.
Yep.
That Chad is mostly right now in Forerunner Productions with Impetus, the Chad Garrett Show,
The West Meadow Show.
the West Meadow Show. They're basically audio only right now, and they are getting ready to expand into video. And I'd much rather have the video. I don't know why. It's not like looking at something.
A lot of our viewers would agree with you.
So,
they've been asking us for video. We've just
I've got a face for radio.
Slow on the roll to get it on there.
But I've got a face for radio. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So, but anyway,
So is Rush Limbaugh, but he's actually on the radio.
So originally, one of Chad's, statement, I guess.
My mission statement for
mission statement, basically, for the Chad Garrett Show was to give to others so that others may give. And when Rick died, he was just one of those type of people that if there was ever the epitome of somebody who gave of themselves, it was Rick Smith. So, whenever I was down at the house and we were thinking about coming up here, I got on the road, and it just dawned on me, that if my next podcast was going to be, he gave to others that others may give. And then you think about who is the ultimate
Giver.
Yeah, that's the best way to put it. Well, human being, because he was human, made flesh.
Yep. And
Walked
he was there
around
at the beginning whenever.
You think about our Heavenly Father, who gave His only begotten Son, John 3:16, that whosoever believeth in Him shall not perish but have everlasting life, gave His only begotten Son. He gave His Son so that others may give. If it's a deep subject. But anyway, to give you a little background on Uncle Rick. Rick, 65, 66 years old. He was a paramedic here in Booone County, did a lot of retraining, trained people everywhere. He also worked on the airlift or the Life for Flight or whatever they call it over here. I'm not sure what it is. But it's the helicopters, the airlift medic that they have here. It's also with the Madison and Danville Fire Departments. He worked for EMS in Van, West Virginia, and Danville, West Virginia. I don't think there's anywhere in West Virginia, southern West Virginia, this man didn't work. But Rick was just the type of person that you could be missing both arms, both legs, and your throat could be slivered, and he could bring hope to you. When Rick showed up on the scene, he just had this aura about him that you knew you were going to be okay, that you were going to get both legs, both arms back, and your neck was going to be perfectly fine when he got done with you.
Yeah.
So, one of the memories two memories that I have of Uncle Rick is the very first one was, and a lot of people don't know this, but when we lived here with Danielle, and she went into congestive heart failure, Rick was the one who drove her from here to Charleston in his ambulance that day, or that night. And then the other one is, when we lived in Greenville, you weren't born yet, and we lived in a little white house beside JD and Helen. Your mom and I were standing out front, and we just hear this explosion. I mean, it was incredible. I mean, it was just an explosion. And you knew it was a car. You heard all the glass, and I mean, it just... So we jumped in my old black truck, and drove down there, and it was 3 kids that come into a curve too fast on a little 2-lane road and hit an oak tree. The one that was in the back was buried head first in the dashboard. The driver was unconscious, basically. He was in and out, and there was a lady who was a nurse that was on top of it. It was a Honda Civic of some kind, or Accord. She was on top of the car talking to the driver, trying to keep him from moving his neck, and the guy on the passenger side, the huge chunk of his arm was just completely gone. Blood all over his face and everything, and so what I did was I took my shirt off, wrapped his arm up so he couldn't get, and we just talked to him and tried to keep him calm until the paramedics got there. Mm-hmm. We actually even went and visited those kids in the hospital. Your mom and I did. So when I called Rick and talked to Rick about it, he said, John, he said, if you ever need to talk, you call me. Mm-hmm. Because he knew the trauma that you face or you experience and what it does to you. And I can only imagine, he told the story of a guy who was in an accident. His legs had him hemmed in, and the car was on fire, and he was screaming to get him out, and he couldn't do anything about it.
Ask him to chop his leg off.
Yeah.
And this was at the beginning of the EMT service in either Booone County or Danville one. Graham was telling me, or it was Ginger was telling me about this one. For the audience, my aunt, his sister-in-law, and she was telling me about this one. The trucker went off the road down into this ravine. The truck caught on fire, and they had just gotten there, and they had gotten out away from the truck and went down, and they didn't have a ton of equipment with them. And this guy's leg was caught in the truck as the truck was catching on fire. And they had plenty of time to try and save him had they had the right equipment, but they didn't have the right equipment to be able to remove his leg in a way that he wouldn't have bled out in the process of doing so. And yet this guy, this trucker who's caught in this truck as this truck is on fire, as he's burning alive, is begging for them to cut his leg off so that he can get free and live. And they just had to sit by and watch him die.
Yeah, it's incredible. You and I talked about, when we did your podcast at Christmas time that I told you about one of the most giving or the most rewarding times of my ministry was when I was doing visitation, hospital shut-ins. And it's because you give. Yeah. You empty yourself. And, in Acts 20:35 it says it's greater to give than it is to receive. Those are red letters in the Bible. Christ is telling his disciples, in the book of Acts at that time that it's greater that you give than it is to receive, and then if you, and you and I talked about this, if you don't empty yourself out, what you have inside is eventually going to go bad. Yeah. You've got to regenerate that.
Not only does it decay, but it's hard to put anything else in. This is both like an old Bruce Lee thing. This is James Cameron in his movie Avatar. They have like the shaman woman whenever he first gets accepted into the Na'vi people, where he's like, it is hard to fill a cup that is already full. It's this same concept of, if you're not emptying out, if you're not putting something back, right, you don't know what to do. Ty Cruz, who's built several multi-million-dollar marketing organizations and other businesses, has this principle in his life to help him out with this same concept, is the 33% rule, right? If you have 100% of your time that you can give to something, you spend 33% of it with mentors, people that are feeding into you, 33% of it with people that are on your level, that are challenging you, that you're giving into and they're giving back, and then 33% of your time with a mentee where you are doing nothing but pouring out. Yep. And that last 1%, that adds up to 99, right? That last 1%, that's what you get for you. Yeah. That's what you get for you. Everything else needs to go to them, right? It needs to go to either learning something and spending time with someone that is more experienced than you, somebody that is in your community, that is your peer, that is going to challenge you, or someone that is younger than you or less experienced than you in a certain area. and feeding into them and helping them get off the ground somehow in some way, and feeding into their life. And then you get 1% of your time to go read a book or play a video game or something like that.
Exactly. And you know, what is our legacy going to be when we leave here? Are we going to, you know, and this is another one that you and I talked about, that whenever you played football, I always told you, don't leave anything on the football field. Don't bring anything off football field with you. When you leave there, you need to know that you've left everything. That's just like with your job. Whatever you do in life, you need to know that every day when you clock out or you leave for that day, that you've done everything you could possibly do that day. That you left everything you had on the workforce or at the workplace or whatever that you could possibly do, and did it to the best of your ability. And so when you, in order for us to, let me transition into this. This is going to be a little bit harder transition from that to this. I believe one of the ways that the best way that we can give and have an impact on others is we have to love each other. I tell the guys at work all the time, this is crazy. I'll tell them, I said, look, I love you guys. I said, not in a sexual way. I said, but I love you, because you got to make that stipulation for HR now. You know what I'm saying? But I said, man, as a human being,
The fact that we live in a world where corporate society, you can't walk up to someone and say that you love them, right? This is why I hate the English language, because love can mean completely different things in the English language, at least in like Greek. In Chinese, they have like 30 different words for love, and I'm super jealous. And then in Greek, they have 6 different words for love. In English, we have 1. And like the way I love my dog is not the same way that I love my father, it's not the same way I love my girlfriend, or at least you hope not. And that's an issue. I wish that like the English language would evolve beyond this thing. It's not even conducive to a conversation. It's because of that lack of variability in our verbiage that we have to make stipulations like that. I just think it's asinine. Anyway, continue.
But here's what I tell them. I said, look, I love you in a godly way.
Yeah.
I love you in a way that God loves us. And in John 13:34 says, love one another as I loved you. That you also love one another. By this shall all men know that you are my disciples. Talking to his disciples. And if you have love to one another, everybody's going to know it. They're going to know that you are of the kingdom of God.
And there are two different words for love.
Love in the Greek, and I didn't break all that down because we didn't have all that.
Well, the two of them that they are is philia, which is the familial love, and agape, which is the encompassing love.
Yeah, or unconditional.
Is the unconditional, encompassing love. The one that people typically associate English love with, or when you're talking about you love your wife, whatever, that's what the Greeks would call eros. That's that romantic, sexual love. And what Jesus is talking about here is more of the philia agape love. It's the way that you love your sibling. It's the way that you love your parent. It's the way that you love your child. It's that brother, sister, that compassionate love, that unconditional love of willing to give anything for these people.
Hold that thought. Give us a quick break. Advertisement.
Oh yeah. So for anybody out there listening that wants to check us out, The Shelter Hole is a Forerunner Productions publication, and so if you want to join us in changing the culture, if you want to join us in giving unto others that others may give, if you want to support us in being able to create the best content that is made with a moral and ethical superiority that you will not find anywhere else in the modern culture, make sure that you go over to patreon.com/Forerunner. There are people in this world that are making all sorts of things that you watch, that you listen to, that don't really jive with your values, and yet you watch them and listen to them anyway because, they don't exactly jive with my faith, and so I'll give them a free pass. Stop doing that. These people hate the things that you value, and they hate you because you value them. Come and give your money to someone that actually values the things that you do. Go to patreon.com/Forerunner. Help us make the content, the cultural content, have the conversations, the movies, the TV shows, the music that you want to listen to. Again, that is patreon.com/Forerunner.
And iTunes?
Yeah, if you want to check us our other podcasts out, we are on Podbean at Forerunner Productions. We're on iTunes, Forerunner Productions. If you're on iTunes, leave us a 5-star review. It helps other people catch us. If you want to share our content, share us on your Instagram stories, share us on your Facebook pages, share us on your Twitter accounts. Make sure that we are getting this content out there to all of the people that you want it to. And actually, as a segue, you were talking about legacy. What is the legacy that you want to leave? And why it is so important for us to give it. I want to wrap this back around into Rick.
Okay, cool.
Okay, my whole mission, my life mission of give unto others that others may give, was actually founded based on some teachings that I learned from a guy named Dr. Miles Monroe. And I wrote about it in my book, and I actually have the quote from him right here.
I know that guy. I've not read stuff, but I know him. I know of it.
One of the saddest things I've discovered is that you need a tombstone. People who are successful don't need tombstones. The reason why we need tombstones is because we were so useless on earth that wherever they planted us, they had to mark the spot to remind us that you used to be here. That's a legacy issue. And when he's talking about successful, he's not talking about financial success. He's not talking about business success. He's talking about life success. What is your mission? What is your purpose? What is the thing that you set out to do, that you feel called by God? What is the gift that you have been given to use in this life? And if you go out and use it, if you touch other people's lives by doing that very thing, you won't need a tombstone. Rick never had a ton of money. So many times this weekend, people have told me about how him and his wife sort of just scrape by in life. And yet Rick is one of those types of people that without ever amassing a ton of money, without ever going and building a Fortune 500 company or amassing a massive 401k, everyone that man has ever touched, and for years and generations to come with people that don't know him, they will know his name. Because I guarantee you there won't be 5 years gone by before there's a building or a road or a county or a government building or something that will be named after Richard Smith, because he touched that many lives. Yeah, he is someone that doesn't need a tombstone. It doesn't matter where they bury this man at, because people will know of this man's existence for generations to come because of how effective he was at touching people's lives through his own ministry, and he treated his EMT service as his ministry. And he might have spoken openly about the Bible with everyone that he touched, but he loved everyone that he touched in a way that was very much reminiscent of the verse that you just gave us, in that agape, that unconditional ability to calm people down and take care of them and get them through the hard times and give them hope in a time where they typically would have been freaking out because of a catastrophe.
Yeah. That's awesome, Chad. And if you think about it, we remember those people who have in some way touched our lives other than money. That somebody can give us money most of the time and we'll never remember that person, but a football coach, a teacher, or an assistant, or someone along in your life that may not have given you anything but their time, may have not given you anything but their love, their affection, their compassion. Those are the people that you remember the most. That's why family has such an impact on us, is because a lot of times, our family, we don't sit here and just pass out money to each other. We build that relationship to where we it's just like Rick with these girls. You just so everybody knows we've got an audience here today. We're filming in my sister-in-law's house, and the girls, her daughters are we got, I don't know where Katie went, but we've got Nicole and Grace in here. Katie's listening to us in the living room, and these girls loved Rick. He didn't give them anything other than his love and his compassion. And the effect that he has upon these girls, man, to watch them sob, and they're heartbroken that they lost him, but at the same time, they know that they will see him again someday. And that the love they still feel the love and the compassion that that man had. They still feel that today.
Yeah.
And he's continuing to carry that on.
And I don't want this to come across in the wrong way. But I'm going to relate this back to our audio guru, Chase Sizemore. He had a mentor, wasn't very old, that died, got hit in the head while he was out swimming, and knocked him out underwater, and he drowned. And Chase told me the other day, he was like, I really believe that his mission, that he lived his life fully for the Lord, and that his mission was done whenever he was taken. Even though he was taken at a young age, he had fully lived out what he was supposed to live. In a lot of ways, Rick's ability to give the way that he was able to give was being taken from him from different health concerns. And in a lot of ways, it was almost a mercy that he went when he did, because he didn't have to live a ton of time beyond his ability to give into people the way he had spent his entire life doing.
It's a blessing.
Up into that point. And another thing that I'll bring up, it's probably been over 10 years. It's been over a decade since I've actually got to see Rick. Every memory that I have of Rick would not be a memory if he hadn't been there. It's not like, oh yeah, we were out doing this really cool thing and this really cool thing became a memory and Rick was there. It was every memory that I have with Rick growing up is a memory in my mind because of his presence in that moment. That's how powerful of a personality this guy had in the best way
that's awesome.
possible.
That's an awesome way to put it. It really is. And you know, we get so wrapped up in our everyday lives, our jobs, our bills. I gotta say, again, you know, I keep giving props. And I'm not paid by any of these guys or any of these people that I mention on any of these podcasts. But I just got to tell you, if you've got to read Phil Robertson's books. I'm not going to give you the names of any of them. Just go look at Phil Robertson books. You'll see them on Amazon. I'm not going to mention Amazon.
You already did.
So anyway, go somewhere else other than Amazon to get your books. So anyway.
Support your local bookstore, whatever it might be. The best ones are the ones that have used books that you can go and get them from a dime a piece, and you can order any book that you want to, and then let them support whoever they want to support. But get your books from the local bookstore.
The unashamed broadcast, man, with Alan, Phil, and Jace, have really helped me change my life. First and foremost, the Lord Jesus Christ has done it, and going back through His Word and the revival that I'm having in my own life, and it's amazing, and I'm loving it. I'm eating it up. So anyway, we're about to come up on the end of this thing. I'm hoping that this was a good test run, and that we're just getting started. So we're
the fact that you got I can give you some great as your executive producer, I can give you some grace on some of the audio quality because you do have a video element, which makes it it just helps it out so much more. But we'll get you hooked up with the right equipment, and we'll make sure that everything is going. So if there are some things that seem a little rough around the edges to the audience, stick with us. It only gets better from here.
Yeah.
I want to go out on another piece by Dr. Miles Monroe. And I want to relate it back to Rick because we're making this episode very much in memoriam to Rick. This is sort of our personal eulogy to him that everyone gets to experience, and as an encouragement for everyone to live your life like Rick. It doesn't get better than that. Whatever it is that God has called you to do, whatever it is that you feel like life has called you to do that. Use your gift, because if you don't, you will end up like this next piece that I'm going to read you. It's another piece by Dr. Miles Monroe. Buried in the cemetery are books that were never written. In the cemetery are buried music that was never played. Paintings that were never painted are in the cemetery. The graveyard is filled with businesses that never opened, magazines that were never published, ideas that never became reality, visions that never became a reality are in the cemetery. What a wealthy place. The graveyard is a rich place because buried in the graveyard are great men who died as alcoholics, awesome women who died as prostitutes. What a wealthy place. Why? Because people took their treasure to the cemetery. Rick left nothing. He left it all out there. There was nothing, I'm thoroughly convinced that in that man's life there was nothing left for him to give.
And died a rich man.
Yeah. Died a rich man because he was empty.
There you oh, that's good. Died a rich man because he was empty. Now that's awesome right there. That'll preach, actually.
Yeah. So, if you can take anything from this, from my perspective for the audience, give unto others, because there has been nothing more than Rick's ability to give that has inspired me again in my life to do what Dr. Miles Monroe preached into my life, to do what Rick has shown me to do in my life. Give it back. The only thing that's going to get it, if you don't give it to the world, if you don't give it back into the people, it's only going to go to the grave.
That's good. Hey, thanks everybody for tuning in tonight. And again, it's a little rough around the edges. Just kind of be patient with us. Again, thank you for joining us at the shelter hole, where we just ask where do you seek your shelter, and we're hoping that we can bring a little hope and joy, even though our hearts are heavy with the loss of Rick. We're here to celebrate his life.
Absolutely.
And listen, death have no sting, and to be absent from the bodies, to be present with the Lord. And he also says he'll never put more on us than we can bear. So we thank you for joining the shelter hole. Chad, thanks for jumping in here at the last minute, man. I hope all this works out, and that this we'll find out when we go to production and see how this is. We go to produce this. But anyway, thanks again everybody for joining the shelter hole. This is Big John G, and
I'm Chad Garrett.
we're out of here.